Welcome back to Pro Shop. Today I'm going to be gapping and skinning the doors and guards on the EH ute behind me. So what's the first thing we've got to do is get this thing up on some stands. We don't have the wheels just yet, so we want to mimic the car being on its wheels by putting some stands under the diff and under the cross member. You do not want to gap it on the hoist. The front and back can sag, and then you get everything nice, all the gaps looking good, and as soon as you put it on its wheels, those gaps will close up and it'll be terrible. So that's what we've got to do first. Then we want to put the guards and the doors on, the hinges, and we want to bolt them up in the center of the holes. Now there's a lot of adjustment in those holes, so you get them in the center, that way you can move them up and down, left and right, and everything. So with all that done, now we can get started. Here is a good time to show just how far everything is out at the start of gapping. Overlapping here, it's touching there. As you come down, it opens up and then gets tighter again. The bottom, and it's a bit tight there, but gets even tighter there. Big gap there, touching down there, touching here. These lines are out. This rolls down, this comes up. So it can look quite overwhelming right now. And this is everything I need. It's probably more. Every job is different. Everything's set up, ready to go. All right, now I have to gap the door frame. Just make sure that there's enough for the skin to wrap around and be beaten flat. So I think it's like a little bit tight there. So I'm gonna just go around like what I did with this, and it was too tight on this end, and tape it up. So I need to trim all that off on the bottom, and I'll tape up here and do the same thing around there. Also I need it to be a little bit lower, obviously the thickness of the skin, all the way around. Took a little bit of work, but now we've got that body line nice and straight, and I can work up, trimming that in, trimming that, and you can see the edge on this side. It's sort of all over the place, big, and then goes tight up here. So I'm gonna have to tape, like I did on the frame, tape the gap that I want, and then I'll pull it off and beat the edge to that tape line. This has to be removed a lot. That's actually overlapping there, and that's touching. That's actually hard up against it. And then big gap down here. And the bottom, looks like the bottom could come up. So I'll just do one edge at a time. Probably do this one first because it's touching, so I want to get that nice, and then it might ease up a little bit. It could open even that up. That could be pushing back. So yeah, let's start here. Tape that, pull it off, beat it down, put it back on and off multiple times until, well, we get this. And so here you can see how much I had to move the line, how thick that is. Had to just beat it up and around, and I won't beat it over just yet. I'll do the other side and the bottom. I have to just put some clecos in it to hold it in position now. I'll do the other side. Oh, sorry, do all around, and then I'll pull it off and prime everything and then beat it round. Well, that's pretty good now. It did take some pressure off the back because the back's pretty even, just needs a little bit off here. It's not much, but I'll tap that around, and it has left like a really rounded edge, but when I flatten that off, it'll sharpen up. And now the last one. So this is actually sticking out because it's too low and sitting on the sill. So I've got to push that up and taper it back to nothing. And now last thing to do is sand off the red oxide and prime it with the weld through primer. Same with all here. Just in case I need to weld, grind a bit back or weld a bit to it, just that there's no paint in there. Okay, now I've just got to beat this edge all the way around flat. It's a fun job. I've already got a forearm pump from doing it all day. But the final stretch, almost done. It's a nice edge all the way around. I'll just weld a little piece onto here, trim that later. It was just so much easier to cut that flange off and fit the top of the door. Just for a little bit of welding, it'll be better. Okay, and that's done. So I will prime it in an etch primer, and then before painting I'll go around and drip check it. And if you don't know what I mean by that, it's just silicone, wiping silicone into this groove just to stop any water going in, and then painting over the top of it. I've got the door back on. I just finished tacking up here. Got the gap nice all the way around. Tack that up here. Still got to put that panel and finish that edge on the two tops, but I've got to trim that back, play with this a little bit. I'll play with the edges a bit later in the build. Once I've got the motor in there, the wheels are on, sitting on the ground, I'll do the final gapping where I've just got to, fill a bit, take a bit off, maybe just file some edges, and we'll do that later. But for now, I'm just going to chuck the rubber on. So put these clips in and put the rubber on. And the last thing to do is fit all the glass, all the mechanisms and that handles, just to mimic a bit of weight in the door, because they can sag. You can gap everything, and then you go to finish the car by putting all this in, and then it all drops and sags. So it's a good test to do it now. I'm pretty happy with all the gaps. I'll show you on this side. Well, you can see body line is nice and straight, and still got that curve that kind of comes out and back in again. And yeah, one thing, it's a bit of an overkill, but what I do is put some tape in the bottom of the doors just while I'm still on this stage. I know I primed between both, but just so metal dust and even the body filler dust in paint doesn't go down in there and sort of block the drains and everything. So just cover that up, and after I do all the body work and it's ready for priming, I'll take that out, vacuum it, prime it, and paint it. And that'll be sealed. All right. Pretty happy. And my opinion on these repo panels. First, the guards and the valance, I'm actually pretty happy with them. The bolt holes did line up reasonably well, actually. There was a few little problems here with where these two panels are spot welded together. It was just like a high sticking out, and the guard wouldn't come in far enough, but I just sanded that off. Like nothing too drastic. This side, the pressings are a little bit out. You can see this overlap. I'm probably gonna have to cut this and just tap that in, weld it back up again so those lines meet up. That you wash the car and you hit that with your finger or sponge, you're probably gonna cut it. So I'll fix that up. It took a little bit of massaging, like some pulling and twisting to get this shape in, but it does line up here. It's nice to flush through there. Gaps are good. As I said, all the holes were centered. They lined up really well. The door skin, this side fit really well. The other side took a little bit more work, but this is kind of got nothing to do with the panels. It's really the 60-plus-year-old car. It's had repair works down here. It's had new seals put on. I've fabricated all up in there. So you're just not gonna, replace a panel and think it's gonna bolt straight on. Hey, it might, but not in this case. But what we have to work with here in Australia, we don't get too many good reproduction panels like we do in America, like they do in America with the many options of manufacturers that remanufacture these parts. So in Australia, I'm just lucky that they make these guards and that so on takes the time to make these door skins, because all these body lines and the curves, they all fit really well. It's even got holes in here for the belt molds to clip onto. I did have to die grind, or it was actually just file those bolt holes just a little bit to get it the handle in. But all in all, for I think $250 for the skin, and I think the guards were $900, $950, and then $900 for the valance. It's just a lot easier to start with something like this. As I said, it might take a little bit of massaging, but at least I'm not welding up holes, fixing rust and damage. So if I were to do it again, I definitely would buy these panels. And that's my opinion. All right, I'm really happy with the gaps on this. I seem to be doing a lot of utes, which is good because there's only 2 doors to gap. Makes life a little bit easier. I still got to do the bonnet, so I was waiting for those hinges and then I can finish that. But as I said, this is probably 95% done, and once I have everything settled in, the motor, wheels and stuff, I'll just go around, file the edges, get them nice and neat. However, one thing that the customer did say, I just took a photo of it all done and sent it to him. Or actually, I do videos and sending videos. And this is the exact same thing that happened in the HR, is that these quarter windows, I don't put them in until like the gapping stage. And I remember with the HR, they were out for most of the build. And then when I went to put them in, the owner didn't like it. He says, he's been seen in the car the entire time without these quarter windows in, and now that just looks a bit funny. And this is exactly what this customer said too. So, one-piece glass it is. And I remember when I did the HR, I remember fitting all the mechanism in, making the tracks and all that stuff. And I thought this would be great to do before putting skins on. So I should have mentioned this to the customer, but I didn't. And now I've got to do the same thing. It's not that bad of a problem because we've got such a big opening down here I can play with. And anyway, I did it in the HR, so I can do it again. It just means making a little panel up here and putting the track in, electric windows. Anyway, I know a lot of people like that one-piece glass video I did in the HR, so I'll be doing another one on this. But for now, I'm going to wrap it up. I've got some stuff to do on the hard lid. The latch and stuff has turned up, so I'm going to get that done and continue. I've also got the FJ on the hoist. I've painted the diff, ready to put that, assemble that, get the motor down, and still a lot of stuff to do. So thanks for sticking around. Same as always, please like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. If you have any comments, leave it below. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Gap's good. Oh, it's a bit haunted. Still managed to forget the earth.